Hello and welcome to SETI Live. I'm your host, Beth Johnson, Communication Specialist here at the SETI Institute. First off, thank you to our viewers from around the world for joining us, and please let us know where you are watching from. Also, welcome into listeners on the podcast version of SETI Live, which is available on most podcast platforms. Look at a moon atlas, and you'll see a land populated with the names of philosophers, mathematicians, and astronomers. Out of the 1,578 cataloged and named craters on the lunar surface, 32 are named after women. That is barely 2%. SETI Artist in Residence Program Director Bettina found this percentage to be disappointingly low, so she decided to highlight the issue with her artwork. Please join me in welcoming Bettina to the live stream. Thanks for being here today, Bettina, and of course, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. It's fun to be interviewed instead of interviewing artists from the air program.
I know this is a turning the tables for you.
Exactly, it is.
So this came about because we were chatting last month off screen about your project, because one of my friends who is probably watching on Twitch, hello Broken Symmetry, always asks about the artwork in the background, and so I've been asking you about it on and off for the last few months. That wonderful painting back there. So this started off as just charcoal drawings, charcoal and acrylic drawings, correct?
Pencil and acrylic.
Pencil.
So it looks like charcoal because I'm very, I use a lot of soft graphite pencils to get that texture. But yeah, and the black area, like the moon shadows, they needed to be blacker even than pencil. So I used black acrylic for those.
So you did all 32 in the acrylic and pencil,
yeah.
and you've had those on display.
Mm-hmm.
And then this became a bigger project, correct?
Well, it did. I thought it would be interesting to make more of a statement. So I call the project Women with Impact, because the women who have moon craters named after them all have made an impact in their field. They're mathematicians and scientists and astronauts. But also a moon crater is the result of an impact. It's a void in the regolith that sort of is a metaphor also for the absence of women that in the STEM field, or who are not being acknowledged for their contributions to the STEM field.
It's a very important issue to highlight still today. So I'm really excited, and of course you have chosen this amazingly vibrant and striking color palette, which of course everybody can see behind you, and so we'll talk some more about that as well. I just kind of want to know, like, from a personal standpoint for you, what has this project meant? What sort of, like, what was your thinking going into it when you figured out that this was, 2%, and what led you to say, like, this needs to be something I need to do?
It started for me when I was actually observing the moon. I have a couple of telescopes, and I do a lot of lunar observing. With the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, I led a little moon observing group. There is a certificate that you can get from the RASC where you log about 130 or 136 objects on the moon, a lot of them craters. So I did a lot of sketching at the eyepiece, and I looked at at the moon atlas, and I wondered, well, first of all, I noticed all moon craters are named after people. Then I asked the question, how many of those people are women? And then notice this like minuscule percentage. And that kind of hit me, because I didn't think it would be 50%, but it was just so low. And then I thought, like, what can I do? I'm not a politician. I don't work for the International Astronomical Union. But I think art has a role to play, sort of being critical and taking a different point of view, and so highlighting issues. And I call this protest by celebration. So I wasn't going out with my waggedy finger. I thought I'd make an art project and draw people in through aesthetics. And then these drawings will be, interesting and have a backstory. So then maybe there'd be a great conversation starter. And I'm just so delighted that this series has been exhibited in both art museums and galleries and at the planetarium in Montreal. So reaching different audiences and, getting those conversations started about the absence of, or the under-acknowledgement of women's contribution to the STEM field.
And it's such a wonderful project. I've honestly loved it since it was in the drawing phase with
Right.
the black and white, but taking them to color has just been really amazing. I want to welcome in our viewers. So I'm going to take a quick moment to do that. We have people watching from New Jersey, from the Netherlands, from Wales, from Ottawa, Canada, Indiana, France. Wow. Let's see, Germany, England, New Hampshire. So thank you. And particularly for the person in the Netherlands, that is Daniela De Paulus. And I want to say
Hey.
really quickly, congratulations on winning the Europlanet Award, Daniela. Check out our press release on that. She's a part of our SETI Air program. So it's appropriate to say hi and welcome and also congratulations. Okay, you have some slides. Did you want to go through some of your slides and
Yeah,
about your project?
I think I can just maybe show, hang on, I'm just going to start that off. Just I'll give a little bit of background of how I made the drawings. So when I first figured out that I was going to do the drawings, I looked at where all these craters are situated. And half of them on the facing side, the side of the moon that I can see, and I could have maybe done this with my telescope, but half of them are on the far side. So that doesn't work. Sadly, I do not have my own spaceship. So plan B was to go online. So you see on the top two websites that I used. One is the LROC, the Lunar Orbital Data Explorer, that they have fantastic images. More recently, I'm using also the Moontrack website because it has LiDAR data, and I've done some 3D prints of the moon craters as well. But I knew all the coordinates of the craters that I wanted to sketch. So then, you just plug that in, zoom in, and then took screen grabs and used these as starting points for my drawings. And what I noticed is that every crater is just so different. I think the beauty of drawing is that it makes you really observe so much more closely. You need to comprehend something that you're looking at to be able to draw it. And it deepened my understanding of what a moon crater is and how it's constructed. So of course it needs to work as a drawing, it needs to work as a piece of art, but you see like some craters have central peaks, some have smooth crater floors, some have terraced or fluted floors. And so I could really, I basically decided to make a portrait of each crater, the way you create a portrait of a person. So all of them are scientifically accurate, all the nooks and crannies are where they should be, but I would emphasize a little bit. So this is like how I really got into like even a bit of research. I was like, well, some are just like boring holes in the ground, others have central peaks. How does that happen? And so I've got even a little bit into crater research, because apparently like the tiniest bump on the moon counts as a crater, up to something like a multi-ring basin that is nearly 1,000 kilometers across. So it's just, I think through the arts, you can discover a lot of science content. And that's the full family portrait. Well, that's the first iteration. This was only 30. And it includes at the very top right-hand corner, the Sally K. Wright impact field. That's basically where the Grail probe crashed on the lunar surface. And so does that also count as a crater? And should maybe Sally Wright have her proper crater? You decide. You can discuss. And here is just a little snapshot of the family portrait in a gallery context. And this was a beautiful exhibition at the Montreal Planetarium, Femme d'Impact in Montreal. So, the French version. And yeah, like you said, now I've gone pink. So do you want to talk to me about the pink, and then I can go back into the presentation?
Yeah, let's talk about the pink. So this is what was really striking. I mean, you've had these pictures in the background, and they've obviously changed because you have three on display, in Montreal right now, or in Ontario, right?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. And so you have 3 that you've shipped out, and they're hung in a museum, but you have one in the background again.
That's right. Yes, I'm continually working on this. So if you want to unshare, I can. Oh, is this me who needs to unshare?
Oh no, you're
All
fine.
right.
It's not on the
Okay,
screen. You're
cool.
fine.
So I have what I have behind me. It's all mirrored this way, here. So this is the creator of Tereshkova, named after Valentina Tereshkova, the first woman in space. We mentioned Sally Ride. She's the first American woman in space. Valentina Tereshkova is the first woman in general in space. And so this is still on the easel. It's a work in progress. Right here, I've got sketched in, this will be Cannon crater right there. So after
named
Jump
for
Cannon.
Annie Jump Cannon.
That's right. And this one right here, I'm having a hard time with the mirror. There. This is the beginnings of Resnick crater. This is a school teacher who lost her life in the Challenger mission. And yeah, so I've got always a couple of canvases on the go, depending on how detailed I want to work. And so one canvas doesn't get too precious and you just get too detail oriented. It's like off with you, on with another one. And then I can continue noodling around.
It's fantastic. I'm so thrilled to see that this continues, because I remember one of the questions I asked you when we were offline was, are you planning on doing paintings of all of them? Because, you know, you've shipped these 3 off, but again, there's more coming. So let's talk about this color palette, which is hanging on your wall. And so what are the materials that you used, and how did you work on setting up this color palette?
So the reason I even decided to do paintings, I'd finished the drawings and they're wonderful, and it's called Women with Impact. So I thought, how can I make a bigger impact visually? First of all, make it bigger. I think scale is really important in artistic work, as much as like digital work, you know, or drawing, it's always kind of small. I want, the moon is big, space is big, and I want artwork to be so big that you kind of get swallowed up by it. That, you know, so I'm working with 48 by 48 inch canvases. And then I thought, for a color, well, pink is a very political color. I think we always have sort of associations with color, like green is for the environment, and we have blue states and red states. So there's always some sort of association with color. Pink in particular is so associated with femininity, for better or for worse, with Barbie dolls, with, you know, like charming little girly princess things. But pink can also be a statement if you use it right. And I am using it with fluorescent pink even mixed in to the pigment, because this is a statement pink. This is roll up the newspaper and smack you over the head with it pink. like drag queen pink, right? I even did a little test with glitter in it. Too much. It's like
too much.
Yeah, that was like, you need to push the limit. I exceeded the limit. I rolled it back. So now it's just really like vivid, wonderful, rich pink. And pink can be baby and pink can be fleshy. So pink actually has a big spectrum of kind of so association. So I'm playing with that. But mostly I'm going for the really for the big statement pink. These are not canvases that you can easily overlook. So if you want to put women back in the spotlight, I think this is a great color palette to do it.
So what are the materials that you use? Is this all acrylics, or, you know, have you mixed, is there mixed media involved, or did you just sort of stick to one sort of platform here?
I stick to acrylics.
Okay.
I've been painting with acrylics for like 20 years. I started with oils. I don't have the patience for letting things dry. Also, I used to work in a very thick and textured way. I did a whole series of the surfaces of different solar system moons. And they were very richly textured. And, you know, you can't do that with oil. It would take a year to dry. So I switched over to acrylics, and I kind of stuck with this. And these are not very textured. They're just, you know, fairly flat. I'm letting the pigment do all the heavy lifting. I think if I also textured it, it's just again too much, and it's not needed. So, but they're very painterly and loose. But again, like the drawing and creating portraits, they are all accurate. The shadows are where they should be. The secondary creators are where they should be. You know, attractor blankets are where they should be. But it's pink now. So if you want, I can reshare and show you. That just give you like, you know, like this is like the shot that I worked from, and then my interpretation. Some of them are sort of, you know, more loose than others. And here they are. This is a snapshot from the curator, Helen Gregory, at Mackintosh Gallery at Western University in London, Ontario, where they're on show right now until December 8th, if you happen to be that in the neck of the woods. This is when she just taken them out of the crates. And I love how the gallery floor is so shiny, and it looks like they're on the edge of water, like the tide is coming in, which is also so really connected to the moon. But that's how they're exhibited right now. So yeah, I'm just gonna share. So I'll give you a little like in situ view of the exhibition as well.
So they're not, so you mentioned that they're not, that they're, you said 48 by 48? But they're not all the same size, correct? You're actually doing them in different sizes.
Yes. So I experimented with the size. I usually do 48 by 48. It's a little big for some people, so I thought, well, maybe, you know, like the smallest one is 40 by 40. I may do some larger and some smaller, but in sort of Valentina-ish and Canon are 48 by 48 again. It's just such a great size, and I love the square format because in space every side is up. So you could sort of theoretically hang these any which way. I'm painting them one way up because the eye has gravity. So we see certain things as up and down. So they do have a way up, but I just like the idea of playing with format and mostly doing squares. Like you'll see Resnick here is on a more, you know, landscape because I'm painting landscapes. But I'm gonna return to the square. You have to try stuff, and then, you know, you either like it or you don't like it.
I personally, I love it. I'm going to welcome in some more people. Let's see. We have Texas, Columbia, British Columbia, Canada, Sweden, Utah, another person from Ontario, Canada, Berlin. Welcome in. So let's talk a little bit about the SETI Air program itself. You are the director, but you were involved before you became director. So how did you get involved? What was your first project with SETI Air? And what can you tell us about the program itself that you want people to know right now?
Oh, wow. So lots of questions. So I got I got involved with the air program when I was a master's student at Concordia. My thesis was on the connections of art and science, sort of the overlap of the practice of scientists and artists and what they have in common. And I was interviewing especially women who are working at that art-science intersection. And I knew Charles Lindsay, who was the director of the air program before me. And so I wanted to talk to women at the SETI Institute, and I also talked to people at the Exploratorium. I also talked to men, just, you know, just to see if there's a difference, what the challenges are for women entering the field of science, if it's similar to the arts. So I had great conversations. My MA thesis actually has a life story of Jill Tarter in it. So it's actually an interesting read, unlike many MA theses. And now I'm doing a PhD, a similar subject, again, art and science, and whether we can use art to disrupt gender stereotypes. So getting girls interested in STEM through the arts. And the project is called Imagine Aliens. So it connects art, astrobiology, and exoplanet research. So I'm living at that place where art and science intersect, and especially where art and astronomy and SETI stuff intersects. So when Charles Lindsay got offered a job to teach in Tokyo, not to Tokyo, in Kyoto, and was moving to Japan, and I was already the art science researcher here at the SETI Institute, He said, "Do you want my job?" And I said, "Sure. When can I start?" And I think it took like 2 weeks, and because I already knew the program, I had helped set up our archive. So we have institutional partnership with the Center for Art and Environment, with the Art Museum of Nevada in Reno. They do wonderful work, and so I had sort of helped set that up. So I knew all the artists already, and so it was a very easy transition for me. And I'm very excited to just basically be a facilitator in wonderful conversations. So we get mid-career artists in. So what the SETI Artist in Residence program basically connects mid-career artists who have an interest in the kind of research that takes place at the Institute. And I set them up. I'm like a matchmaker. I set them up with researchers and scientists at the SETI Institute. They have conversations, and then wonderful art projects are the result. We're very interdisciplinary, so that those art projects could be an art installation, photography, choreography, an album of electronic music. So I urge you to check out our website or web pages on the SETI Institute's website to browse.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And go back through our we have a list of the artist in residence videos that we've done. So when Bettina has been on the other side of this screen and interviewing and interviewing people about their art that they've done for the Institute, they're all there, and it's amazing, a lot of the stuff that has come out of it. And it's true, it's had a very wide range of different mediums and different processes. So I want to get questions from the audience. There's a few that have been coming in, so please feel free to continue to ask questions. First off, there's an excellent question from Veronica Cure, who asks, how does art help people understand science? And obviously you came across this when you were working on your creators and having to learn more about them, but how can we use art to help people understand?
I think when you make art about science, you're reaching new audiences. So maybe people who normally would not go to a planetarium or a science museum or read, astronomy magazine, you reach them with an aesthetic experience, and they may see these, crazy pink moon crater paintings and go like, that's cool. There's an artist called Olafur Eliasson. He calls that the wow aha strategy. So you do first, seeing great art when you go like, wow, that's really cool. So you're just, experiencing it as an artwork. But especially in contemporary art, there's always a bit of a backstory. There's an artist statement that you can read. You can question the title, and then you find out more things. So next to my paintings at the gallery, it says it's called Women with Impact, and about the only 2% representation. And that then leads to more questions and more new insights. So I think it is a really interesting way and useful way to communicate concepts, even science concepts. I always say our Artist in Residence program turns data into experience. And sometimes we understand more deeply and more viscerally when we go via experience than just via the head. So ideally, you want to connect the two, and they should be in balance.
I like that. I like that, translating into I like that. That is a good, we should put that should be a tagline on the
I agree.
webpage.
Yeah.
So Zapfan is asking if there are any craters named after Hypatia.
Yes.
Which, yeah,
yes.
okay.
Yeah, she has a crater. Good thing too. Yes.
Absolutely. Out of the names that did you learn about the women as well when you were looking at all these names? I know there's not a lot, but I know from my experience when we were doing sort of a similar thing for a project at school, at university, looking at this list of women and going, I don't know these names. Who is everybody? So who were people that you learned about that were surprised or that were interesting?
Well, I did look up all the women and wrote short bios. Actually, the exhibition that took place at the planetarium, what we'd done there, and it was really beautifully designed. They have fantastic exhibition designers. So all the drawings were at eye level, and then when you look down, we had a plaque at the feet, and then you could read the short bio for each woman. So it wouldn't clutter and disturb your visual experience with the drawings, but it would be like a paragraph about who the women were. And they just really interesting stories of, like I love Resnick, like the school teacher who went out, wanted to be an astronaut and do the science communications, probably a lifelong dream of hers to be in space. And I think many of us can sort of sympathize with that. I love Valentina Tereshkova, first woman in space. And I didn't know she is the only. So there's a naming convention. If you want to, have your moon crater named after somebody, that person needs to be dead for a minimum of 3 years. If you're, thinking about making suggestions. Valentina Tereshkova is still alive. So if you're first woman in space, you get a free pass, apparently. And, things like Annie Trump Cannon, and a lot of like her. So they were like the Harvard computers who were initially just employed to do like easy clerk work. Just, manual, nearly manual labor of looking at plates of stars, and then they turned it and pivoted into actually important work that maybe they otherwise wouldn't have had access to this kind of data. So they're wonderful stories sort of embedded in these names, and I encourage you to just research these women and see sometimes the obstacles they had to overcome to be in that field and to sort of persist and working in astronomy. And they just dug in and they did wonderful work and really contributed to the field.
They are amazing. And I definitely am one of those people who encourages you to go look them up. There is a Women in Astronomy blog that I've found before. So if you search for it, it's there, and they have lots of different profiles on all these different women who made significant contributions and were not necessarily forgotten about, obviously, because we're discussing them now, but maybe not recognized within their own lifetime for the work that they did. So it is a really interesting set of people to go look for. And that's true in kind of all of the so-called hard sciences. We have a similar issue in geology, where there are women who have done things where they have not been recognized for that work. So yeah. I think this project is amazing on so many levels, and I love talking to you about it. And so we're kind of getting to the end of the time here, and I want to know, like, what's next for you? And what's next for SETI Air? Is there anything you want to share with us that's coming up?
So next for me, I really need to finish that PhD. So I'd be, I think, spending a lot of time writing, but I love the data that came out of it, because I've been had my participants in the study write sci-fi stories and make stop motion animation about aliens they invented on exoplanets they designed. So I'm going to live vicariously there through other people's artistic practice and write that up. And this series is going to it continues because more moon craters are being named after women. And so I keep on making more drawings and more paintings about it, and more 3D prints. I'm also tinkering with AI, and where I'm exhibiting the moon craters, I also have an AI exhibit up. There's an animation, and I'm writing sci-fi stories to go with this. So I always return to painting, but I do a lot of new media work as well, sort of in video and sort of more computer related things. And for the AIR program, I'm really reorganizing it. So, hold the space. I'm expanding into separate research areas. Just like the SETI Institute has different research areas, I'm sort of implementing that in the air program as well. So we're going to look at public art, for example. We're going to look at bioart and so connect that with the astrobiology, AI-related artistic practice, because AI is a thing right now, and we need to be critical and research it and look how we can fold it into creative practice in a meaningful way. And that also connects to a lot of the AI-related research that happens at the Institute. So I'm creating connections between what happens at the Institute and the research questions that the scientists have and current trends in creative practice. But we can chat about that again, because that's like another half hour.
Well, now, so what we're saying is we'll do these SETI Air talks once a month, but I think about once every 6 months, we're going to check in with Bettina and figure out what's going on for her and the program. I do have one question that kind of came up when you were talking here. Have you suggested any names for creators for the IAU?
Actually, I do a workshop. That's where I get people to draw moon craters. And then we do the same thing. I go to Moontrack and I make prints of craters. I use the kind of secondary craters. So if there is whatever, Clavius, and there's like Clavius bean, whatever, especially on the far side of the moon, there's a lot of real estate that hasn't been named. And I call these workshops Rename the Moon. So I hand people also a list of fantastic female scientists who have nothing named after them, and maybe should have had a moon crater named after them. So there's that list. And so we do that exercise. It's unofficial because I'm not the IAU, but as part of, like a creative art workshop and just having people think about it, I let participants draw a moon crater and then rename it.
I like that. And so, if there's a way for us to get those names to the IAU, maybe we should nudge them over there.
Yes, actually, I was in an article in the New York Times where Women with Impact was featured. And at the end, they also talked about the work of researcher Catherine Naish, whose research focus is moon craters. And she has named moon craters after women. So she was mentioned there as well. So it's, there are people in the scientific field who have noticed that this is an issue and making an effort to address that imbalance.
So where can people learn more about you? Where can they find you on the amazing world of the internets and follow your work?
Very easy. My name, bettinaforget.com. And I think you can find one of the sliders on the homepage will link you to the Women with Impact project, plus a bunch of other things that I'm doing.
Well, thank you so much, Bettina, for being here today and talking about this wonderful project that I am so in love with, ridiculously in love with. And thank you to my friend Broken Symmetry for continually asking about it and putting the impetus behind this discussion. The SETI Institute is a nonprofit organization, and we need your help. So if you want to help support us and these outreach efforts and our SETI Air program, go to SETI.org/give now and make a contribution, and that will help us keep doing these talks and bringing these artists into our program and continue to do all of this amazing work, helping popularize and help people understand the science behind the Institute. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. Thank you to Bettina, of course, for talking to me about this. And we will be back next week. I believe we are talking to somebody about the DART mission. So that will be awesome. And so come tune in next week when we look at that one, and, watch out on the SETI Air page for some of these amazing projects that are coming out, and obviously keep track of Bettina's work. And if you get a chance to see it in person, do so and tag us about it so we can know that people went out and saw it. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for Bettina for being here, and we will see you next week on SETI Live.
Thank you. Take care.